I try to put myself like,
Yeah.
sometimes we have bad feelings with Mexico. We have the cartel, but if suddenly the entire country of Mexico wanted to eliminate America and were willing to go to war, I don't know. This has been a hard one for me to cover. I don't know if it's been hard for you to cover as well.
Well, I accept that that's not an accurate depiction, and I've heard that many times from many different people, and certainly you see it virtually every day on a lot of the Israeli media. That's not what the situation is. It's not as though out of nowhere Hamas had this horrible terrorist attack on 10/7. You have to look at what happened in the decades prior to that, where they have been trying to get freedom, but they have been kept in this box inside. A physical box inside of the Gaza Strip since. I think they've been totally shut off since 2007, have no freedom. And even in the summer prior to 10/7, there was so much violence against the Palestinian people. 223 were killed by the Israeli Defense Forces and settlers in both the West Bank and Gaza Strip in the summer before, while all kinds of people were protesting, et cetera, in Israel about Netanyahu's attempt to basically take over the judicial branch and have this reform that would have basically kept him out of jail. But while people were focused on that, there was all kinds of repression going on against the Palestinian people. And of course, this goes all the way back to the 1948 when they were literally ejected off the ground, off their territory, and killed in large numbers in what's called the Nakba. So all that history is going into it. So it's not as though, like the Mexican situation, where just for no reason all of a sudden they rose up. This is a response to what happened prior to 10/7.
Yeah. What about let's head up to Lebanon. Is this just more continuation of like a religious war, or is this now them feeling like freedom fighters on behalf of Hamas from the other side of Israel? Why the strong interaction between Hezbollah and Israel?
Yeah, this is why I say that this is another one of the major, and even more so than the Gaza Strip, militarily unattainable. Israel has now, while they're still fighting in the Gaza Strip and they're still fighting the Houthis in Yemen, and they're still having the problems that they're having in the violence in the West Bank. Now then, they've opened up an entire new front, and it's important to say this is what they chose to do. They chose to engage in there. The Hezbollah side had been saying since 8 October, literally the day after 10/7, all the way through, that they were willing to have a negotiated settlement. They were willing to have a ceasefire as long as there was a ceasefire against the Hamas people and the people of Palestine. If they ceasefire, so too would this. So there was a diplomatic path, but Israel said, no, there's not going to be any ceasefire here, and we just want you to stop. And of course, they're not going to do that because it's a quid pro quo. So then Israel said, all right, then we are going to forcibly take you out. But listen, this militarily, forget about all the morality or anything else. This is about a 125-mile wide strip of land. And from where Israel has given instructions to the people of Lebanon to evacuate before bombs start falling is going in, I think, like 30, 40 miles deep into Lebanon, way beyond the Litani River, which is about 25 kilometers away. So there is a massive piece of land that Israel claims that it's going into. And as I put on my show earlier this afternoon, Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, went to the area where they're conducting some of these operations and said they plan on destroying everything. And they're going to wipe everything out and push all of them back until they can no longer threaten Israel. And he said, we will destroy them all. Well, you realize there's between 40 and 75,000, maybe even more than that, actual Hezbollah fighters, and they're scattered throughout the country of Lebanon. So you can't even push back a buffer and say that you have destroyed them because they'll just move beyond the other strip there. But even to do that part, which is a relatively limited objective of pushing a buffer zone back so that they're out of rocket range of the northern Israeli part where they've also had to have their people evacuated, is incredibly difficult because these defensive positions have been built for decades. Since the end of the second Israeli-Lebanon war, they have been expecting a new one. So they have these things outfitted. They have supplies. They have ammunition. They have water. They have food stored in these things, and they can fight a long time. They know the ground like nobody's business. And so far, Israel has had a very difficult time making incremental gains, and they've had a lot of casualties, even among their Merkava tanks, just like they did in the 2006 war. But that one only lasted 34 days. This one has no end state in mind. And it's been going on now for I think 16, 17 days, something like that. And they're still just making just a little bit of progress, nowhere near what they need to. I don't know how in the world you're able to sustain this. This would take multiple months, many, many months, possibly even measured in years, to be able to conquer all of that territory and hold it. So you have to sustain that while you're still doing this other stuff against Hamas and the Strip and the Houthis and all that. And now then you're talking about you could be days or possibly even hours away from opening a new front against Iran. And that's just too big of a bite for any military of that size to be able to fight. And they could get into a situation to where they all of a sudden find themselves unable to defend themselves. Israel could suffer egregiously. If Iran gets into a fight and they say, all right, we're going to saturate your air defense with missiles of all these different kinds and tens of thousands of drones that they have to use, Israel doesn't have enough interceptor missiles. No matter how good Iron Dome is, no matter how effective THAAD may be, they're relatively limited in the number of interceptor missiles that they have. Once those are used up, even if 100% success rate, then that everything that follows that, and Iran does have a lot of them, those missiles are just going to hit with impunity. And the damage could be catastrophic for Israel. And then I don't know how you're going to maintain your forces up in Lebanon if you're all of a sudden your home front's getting hit. And this could go sideways pretty fast for Israel. That's why I wish that the United States would be a little more forthright in saying, hey, cut this out. We're not going to support it for your own good. I understand that you had Naftali Bennett, I don't know if you saw this last week, is just, eagerly and emphatically saying, hey, man, this is a once in a 50-year opportunity for us to get rid of all of our enemies. So we should go right after Iran, get their nuclear sites, get their energy sites, and take them out, which is never going to happen. You can hit a bunch of stuff. Israel has some obviously very impressive firepower, and they could destroy a great many things and could kill certainly a lot of people, maybe even take out a lot of leaders. You can't win a war that way, especially when there's thousands of kilometers between you and the enemy on the ground. You can hit them, but unless you have more missiles than all of the U.S. arsenal combined in what Israel has, you're never going to be able to win a war in the air, because that's not how wars are won. You'll have to go in on the ground, or then you're just going to open a new front, which has another war which has no end. And I just don't think Israel can fight wars that have no attainable objective indefinitely.